Well, hello there everyone! Kirby's Dreamland is a fun time, and the game that started it all. While I never owned a Game Boy growing up, I do have nostalgia for it thanks to the 3DS eShop. I remember specifically getting it for a car ride to my great aunts for Thanksgiving over 12 years ago. Jesus Christ, I was in middle school then. As it's the first game in the series, it has one of the smallest boss rosters at only 5, but I think they do hold up relatively well despite their simplicity. But more so, I'm doing this boss ranking because y'all voted for it, so it's time to rank the bosses of Dreamland 1 from worst to best. No tiering for this list because it's a Game Boy game that's over 3 decades old, and I don't think I can put it on the same scale as Dark Souls 3 or Phantasy Star Online 2 bosses. Let's dive in. Number 5, Wispy Woods. The boss that started it all, the weird tree attacked. Wispy Woods is a perfectly serviceable boss for a Game Boy game, especially an introductory boss. He doesn't move at all, but he can drop apples on you and shoot out air bullets. I don't have any malice towards this boss, but picking the worst boss in Kirby's Dreamland is like picking my least favorite flavor of ramen noodles. They're all fine, but shrimp is the flavor I'm least excited for, and that's kind of the same for Wispy here. Number 4, Kracko. The immortal cloud monster Kracko can seem like a somewhat intimidating boss until you learn what he can do, which is not a whole lot. He can summon Waddle Doos as your main source of ammo, but he'll also charge along the ground to attack you, so the safest spot is to hide in the corners, unless he or Waddle Doo is using a beam attack. Overall, the fight is simple, like all Kirby bosses are, but he did a solid job laying the groundwork for future encounters that he'd have in the series, of which there would be many. Number 3, Lololo and La La La. Everyone's favorite box pushers, this is technically the simplest fight in the game due to both of them only having a single attack, but thanks to the arena layout, it can make for a semi-challenging time ducking and diving between the levels of the arena in order to snag a box and hit the duo. It's nothing crazy, but it's still enjoyable enough, and the two having their own separate health bars despite it showing as one big one does make the fight seem a little bit more fun, at least in my opinion. Number 2, Kabula. One of the two bosses with their own theme, Kabula is straightforward, but a boss I enjoy quite a lot. She's firing her cannonballs at you, while you use the Mint Breath power-up to return fire on her. A basic shmup fight with a cheeky little charge attack thrown in just for spice. And it's at the end of my favorite level in Dreamland 1. Surprisingly though, this is probably the least recurring Kirby 1 boss in the series, as to my knowledge, she only actually comes back in Superstar Ultra and Planet Robobot. It's a shame though, I actually enjoyed this fight a lot. But I guess to be fair, when your entire identity is being a shmup, there's plenty of other bosses that kind of fill that role. Number 1, King Dedede. Obviously, our self-proclaimed king of Dreamland was gonna be number 1. His 10 health compared to the other boss's 6, or 8 in Kabula's case, makes for one of the longest and most challenging fights in the game to accompany his much larger moveset of leaps, hammer strikes, charges, and giving you the suck himself. On top of his iconic boss theme playing throughout the fight as well, which still sounds good even in its old crunchy chiptune form. Despite the overall simplicity of this game, I still think this boss is fantastic for the time and maybe one of the best to come out of the original Game Boy, at least that wasn't an RPG. The King of Dreamland has a ton of boss fights, but rarely is he ever caught lacking, and he did a more than good job in his first showing. And I'm happy to say this is my favorite boss in the game, and hey, it's always cool when the final boss is the best boss, isn't it? And that's all for this video. Kirby's Dreamland 1 is an extremely simple game that you can knock out in 20 minutes or less, but honestly, it's still one I get a decent bit of enjoyment out of, and I can recommend anyone wanting to see the origins of the series that's got a few minutes to kill. In my opinion, it's one of the best aging games on the Game Boy alongside Pokemon Crystal, where I can still play them and have a really fun time without needing to apply any caveats of, it's good, but no, the game itself is simple, fitting of its limitations of the time, but it's still a good game. And you can pretty easily find a copy of it, through legal means or otherwise. But that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more, consider liking and subscribing to see more videos of varying quality, and I'll catch you all later. Take care.